Welcome to Dream and Do, a podcast for women who are chasing their dreams, rediscovering who they are, and are ready to make changes, big or small. I'm your host, Nicola Ray Wickham. Join me for confidence pep talks, soulful insights, and practical tips on all things creativity and wellness, along with powerful conversations with women who are dreaming and doing in action. This is the stuff you're going to wish you knew years ago, but don't worry, it's not too late. Let's get started. Hey, my loves. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Really excited to have Hannah Martin on. She's the founder of the Talented Ladies Club and has a really interesting story and drops gems galore that will help keep you motivated and inspired in your working life, in your business life, in your career. And there's a really cool story as well as to how I first came across the Talented Ladies Club when I was on maternity leave, but I will leave that for the episode because we talk about it then. Just to say thank you for being here. It's lovely doing the podcast. I know I always say it, but I adore this medium so much. I'd encourage any of you to start a podcast if you feel that desire. I have lots and lots of you reaching out to me in my DMs saying that you've been wanting to create a podcast for a while, or you now have the desire to create a podcast. Go do it because it is freaking awesome. In other news, the mastermind is coming back, y'all. It will be launching in September. I'm opening up the wait list this week, which will be the first week of July. If you are interested in getting on board and taking advantage of the super early birds, then send me an email at nicola@alifemoreinspired.com. Right, that's that over. Thank you as always for being here. Enjoy the episode. So today I'm really excited to welcome Hannah Martin from the Talented Ladies Club to the podcast. I had the pleasure of meeting Hannah at an event we were both speaking at a couple of months ago. And I was really excited because when I first started my journey, Talented Ladies Club was one of the very first websites that I came across. And I always believe that when our possibilities are opened up, when we see other women doing things, and what Hannah was doing over at Talented Ladies Club was literally one of the very first things that I saw while I was sitting on maternity leave, thinking, I don't want to go back to work. And I was scanning her website and the possibilities opened up to me. So it's kind of like it's gone full circle. So it's really lovely to be sitting here today chatting with Hannah. Welcome.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction.
How are you today?
Yeah, I get it sunny, which always makes us feel happy, doesn't it?
And a sunny bank holiday scheduled as well.
I know, perfect. Barbecue weather.
Exactly. So tell us a bit about yourself, Hannah, who you are and what you do.
Gosh, where to start? So I grew up in Sussex in the countryside. I was a very shy child. And I was quite arty, so I went to art college, dropped out of art college, felt a bit lost, really didn't know what I wanted to do, got a bit depressed probably actually. I sort of, that kind of classic thing in our late teens, early 20s where we haven't yet found our path in life and we sort of feel that time's racing ahead and everyone else seems to have everything sorted except for us. So I bought a one-way ticket to Hong Kong. And never been there before, but I just thought, do you know what, like I had nothing to lose. And if you've got nothing to lose, you're a bit braver. Ended up staying there for 5 years, got into advertising while I was out there, became a copywriter. Absolutely loved it. Been working in copywriting, advertising for 21 years since then. I set up Talented Ladies Club 5 years ago, actually. It was our birthday this week.
Ooh,
and I was inspired. Thank you. I was inspired by the many amazingly talented women that I met just in my small town after I had my daughter, that all suffered a similar problem. They were all really passionate, ambitious, high-achieving women who'd had careers that they loved, and all of them struggled to resume their career in the same way afterwards. And many of them were actually locked out of their careers because unless they were prepared to work like 16-hour days and travel overseas, their job just wasn't open to them. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be a mum and they wanted to have a career. And so I, having worked out a way by going freelance, achieved that for myself. I wanted two things. One, I wanted, and that's why I love your introduction, because what you described TLC did for you is exactly what I wanted it to do, because I wanted to show women that there were possibilities still. I wanted to show women you don't have to dumb down your ambitions and your talents and your money-making abilities just because you're a mother, that maybe you had to be more creative because that's the society we live in. And the ethos we have is positive honesty. So I never shy away from telling the truth. I never want to say, but everything's fine, really, if it's not. So I'll always speak as I find things to be, or as I know them to be, but I always want to leave people feeling like they're positive and empowered. I want them to feel they have choices and options. So that's what I wanted TLC to be. I wanted to be somewhere women could come and go, there are other women like me, I'm not alone, and I don't have to give up on anything I want. I may have to do it a different way if certain ways are off limits to me, but if I'm determined and I push and I do these things, it will be possible. And then I wanted to give them practical advice about how they could do it.
Amazing. And what I love about your story, it sounds like from a really early age, you were doing that dreaming and doing. The fact that you kind of bought that one-way ticket to Hong Kong, that kind of set a precedent almost for you to be that, even though you started off being that shy child, there must have been something within you that said, actually, no, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't want a life. I think when I was really young, I had this idea that if I'm going to be in a chair in an old folks home when I'm older, dribbling into my tea, watching daytime TV, I want to look back on a life that I loved and that I'd be able to have great stories. I don't want to sit in that chair and say, I could have been this, or I could have been that. I'd rather try something and either succeed or fail. And even if I fail, I can give up on that hope. It's like, do you know what? I'm never meant to be a singer. I'm rubbish at singing. Or I could be, do you know what? I can make it as a singer. So I've always had this sense that I never wanted to accept second best, in the sense that second best being something I didn't really want. So I think, for me, that buying the one-way ticket was, I went to see a careers counsellor after I dropped out of my degree, and she said to me, well, basically, and I was 22 at the time, she said, you're really no different to an 18-year-old who's left school with A-levels because you don't have any useful qualifications after your A-levels. Maybe you can get a job as an admin assistant in your town. And I just thought the idea of that was just the opposite to how I saw my life. And in a way, it was brave. It was less brave for me to buy a ticket to a country I'd never been to before, with all the possibilities there, than it was to try and make a life that I really wouldn't be happy in.
Wow, Hannah. I find it so interesting that you perceive that as being less brave.
But I
think it's wonderful.
But I think this is something we can all do, because we see bravery as something people who are strong and have support do. And actually, it's harder to be brave when you have things you can lose. If you have a comfortable job, it's very hard to go freelance, because how do you give up a secure income and a job you enjoy for insecurity? If you are miserable in your job, or if you were made redundant, going freelance isn't a brave step, because actually, if it doesn't work, you haven't really lost anything. So I think if there's anyone listening to this who is at rock bottom, I think use it positively, because when you're at rock bottom, you can afford to be brave, because actually you're not going to be any less miserable than you are now if it doesn't work. You haven't got anything to lose. That's the time to take those brave steps.
That is powerful. I just think that even as a lesson for us to teach our children, because I feel like, so you kind of went against the grain of what society says is the risky thing to do and the brave thing to do. And that reframe then opens you up to be able to go do the things, go to Hong Kong. And
absolutely. And the thing is that once you take one brave step, it's easy to take another, because that then becomes how you deal with things. So you kind of, I always say, like, we live in our comfort zone. If you push your comfort zone out, it never goes back, because the experience and learnings, even if pushing it out turned out to be a negative experience, it doesn't go back in again, because you've had that experience.
Yeah, it's stretched it, hasn't it? Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. Do you know why I'm still fascinated by you having that mindset at such a young age? Maybe it's because I didn't have that mindset at such a young age. And I know it comes from kind of conditioning and parents, and they were kind of very much like, you do the standard thing. And if I turned around to my mum and said that it would have been brave I would have been braver to stay at home rather than booking the one-way ticket, she would have actually thought I was crazy. What was it, do you think, at that young age that gave you that? Or were you just kind of born that way?
I don't know if I was born that way. I think there's a couple of things. One, I never fitted in. Like when I was at school, I was the child who, I didn't really have any social skills. I didn't know how to relate to people. I actually felt like an alien when I was younger. I didn't understand how people worked. So I didn't have friends at school. I didn't have a group of people I belonged to. So I didn't, I think in that respect, it's enabled me as an adult to make my own choices rather than make choices that suit a social circle around me. So I don't feel a need to conform to a group that I'm in and belong to it, because I didn't have that from an early age. So although I have lovely friends now and I have, wonderful groups of people around me, but there isn't, I don't have that fear of making my own decision. But I think also if I look at my parents are entrepreneurs, they've always made, my dad left school at 15 and travelled the world in the Navy. My parents, 18 years ago, they had a building business. They just closed it down. They bought a house in Devon, which they'd never even lived in before. They just bought a kind of a derelict house and then turned it into a hotel.
Oh, amazing. So they still have it?
Yeah, well, they've now sold that and now they've retired. And then, but then my mom became town mayor, and and my parents have always done new things. They've always been, they live their life in an adventurous way. I've never heard my parents say, "Oh, I can't do that," or I never heard limiting speak growing up. It's not that they ever encouraged us. In fact, I can remember my mum saying to me, maybe it's better you give up on this idea of having a creative career. Maybe you should just get a job in the local town and do painting in the evenings. So it's not that my parents had, they didn't push me, but I never heard them talk themselves in a self-limiting way. I never, if they thought they wanted to do something, they would just go and do it and make it happen. I never heard them say, "Oh, that's not for me," or "I can't do that." So maybe that template wasn't given to me.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I always believe that the most powerful example that we can give to our parents is being the example, isn't it? Sorry, the most powerful example that we give to our children,
absolutely,
and parents now actually, but is to be the example rather than telling them. It's showing them, and that's.
Oh yeah, you can't tell a child to live their life or be something, and then you. Day to day demonstrate the opposite, because actually long before your child was of an age where you can have these conversations, as a toddler they're absorbing all this anyway. They are, every single word you say about yourself or to someone is absorbed by your child. I remember watching Robert Winston years ago, and he followed those children who were born in 2000.
The children of our time.
Something like that. And he did. One was all about kind of where their children's self-belief comes from, and the kind of the inner dialogue we have going on. And they had a mum and a daughter sitting down at dinner, and the mum was saying, "Oh, I'm so fat. This dinner's going to make me fat." So her whole, all she was talking about was her consciousness, and she wasn't actually fat, but her consciousness about her body and her fears about her body, her negativity about her body. And I even saying, her daughter will absorb this, and this will be her mindset growing up. And I think sometimes when you look at, for example, if a mother is overweight and then she'll have children who are overweight, it's not necessarily they're passing a genetic thing down. They're passing maybe this, food is something I struggle with. Food is, a relationship with food that might be inherited, as in like what we call the explanatory style of the mother. So how you explain the world and how you explain yourself to your child is how they see the world and themselves. So I absolutely agree. We have a huge responsibility in how we live our own lives, not just the lessons we give them, but what we demonstrate to them.
And what I love about that as well is that for women that are sitting there thinking, "Oh, I can't kind of follow my dreams, I can't do what I want to do," and it always comes wrapped around guilt is in there. But actually, when we can step back and remember everything that you've just said, it's like, actually, I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing it for those that are looking at me as the example. And I don't believe that we need to have reasons to follow our dreams, because the fact that we want to do it and the fact that we want to be able to nurture ourselves and our own happiness is important enough. But I do recognise that a lot of women need the evidence and the reasons, and what bigger one is there than that?
Exactly. Well, yes, that was they need permission, isn't it? I gave you permission to be ambitious, but if you are fulfilled and happy, you will be a better mother. It's just there's no argument on that. If you are unfulfilled and unhappy, it's not even the lessons or examples you're showing your child. You have less emotional resources for your child because you're more wrapped up in trying to help yourself, and you're not going to enjoy any part of your life. To be a great mother, you have to look after yourself and nurture the things that are important to you and you're passionate about. But that's what I did.
No, I 100%. So your journey then of moving into Talented Ladies Club, was that a leap for you, or was that quite a natural?
It was a bit. It took me about 18 months to actually act on it. So I had this idea, but I was aware that it needs to make money, because obviously it needs to be self-sustaining. So if I was going to spend time on something, it had to bring in an income to make it valid. And I had this idea that I needed someone to do it with me, to kind of like who was commercially minded. And actually that was quite a limiting kind of idea, because I talked about it for ages, and in the end my friend Carrie, who I did end up starting it with, just said to you one day, "I'm just sick of hearing you talk about this thing, I'll do it with you." And she was a designer, so she wasn't even commercial. But I actually, a friend of hers just qualified as a business coach, and she was looking for someone to start working with, and so I started working with her. And just that process of having someone to work with is so powerful. I mean, even today, I have a coach all the time, because it keeps you working, it keeps you focused, it keeps you on your goals. It's amazing. And within 7 days of hiring a coach, I had a business plan written, and the site was live 4 months later.
Wow.
So yeah, it was, it's just testament to the power of coaching.
Yes, exactly. And it's that whole, I believe that we've got everything we need within us. Absolutely. But it's just having someone to help draw it out.
Yes.
Isn't it? And help someone to kind of reflect things and get you there faster, and just help you along, because we can do things ourselves, but it will be probably more difficult. There might be more tears, but just having that accountability and that support is, I know, in my life.
And just also that too often when we are pursuing an ambition or building a business, we're just focusing on doing. I've got to write a sales plan, or I've got to build a new product, or I've got to find a new supplier, or I've got to write my CVs. But we don't do the strategy, the working on it, not in it. I always think of it as like a war. You've got the generals in the war room, that they have all the kind of information about the whole war raging, and they can kind of go, right, I need to move men from this battle to this one. That one doesn't matter if we lose it. That's strategic. That's not. If you are the foot soldier in your war constantly, if you are on the ground fighting an individual battle, but with no sense of what's going on in the war room, you've got no idea whether that battle is contributing to the eventual overall win or not. You need to have you need to have that kind of eagle-eyed view in the war room and get the strategy. And then if you need to go and be your foot soldier in all those places, or get people to be your foot soldier.
That is such a wonderful analogy, especially if so many of us are doing it on our own as well.
Exactly. And I've been there as well. There was a period of time when I wasn't having coaching, and then I just got stuck on doing, and it was almost like you're treading water, because you're busy doing stuff, but you're not making progress. With a coach, you'll kind of look at where you want to be and how can you get there, and they'll just ask the right questions. Like you say, it's all in you. They never give you anything, but they ask the right questions. They get you to question. You go, oh, I'm going to do a new email list today, and they'll be like, really? What's that?
I love that question. It's like, oh, so why? And it's like, oh, because I saw somewhere that someone said that I should do it. Definitely. So with Talented Ladies Club at the moment, what is exciting you the most about it?
To me, it's do you know what? It's just the women that it's when people respond to articles, and I love all the training that we do. I love creating training courses. I love being able to turn my experience and my knowledge into something that's useful for someone else. And then I love the feedback. You know, when someone says to you, I was feeling really down, I didn't know what to do, you made me feel like I could do it, and I've gone and done it. That to me is the best thing. That's what fires me up.
Amazing. And what plans do you have for the future?
Apart from world domination.
Yes. I'm my kind of lady.
Just doing more of my training courses. I've got one thing my business coach is like, please stop creating more training courses. You're just doing more and more. But I've got 3 more training courses that I'm going to finish.
To get that.
No, it's not mine.
Oh.
But yeah, so I've got 3 more training courses that I'm going to finish. I just think more of that, more of the same, more great content. I love the content. I love writing articles. So yeah, just more of all of that.
Exciting. And so coming back to you, what is it that helps you? So you've talked about how coaching kind of helps you. Is there anything else that you do, whether it's on a daily basis, weekly, or just regularly, that helps to keep you in kind of a positive state of mind where you're open to the possibilities?
What do I do that keeps me in a positive mind? It's getting things in perspective, I think, is really important. I remember there was one year, probably about our second year of TLC, and TLC decided to grow. So we had, we were getting lots of readers, we were getting lots of interaction. But at that point, we really hadn't, because we didn't start out with a financial model. So it wasn't bringing in an income. So I was still working freelance. I was working on TLC at that point, virtually 7 days a week. And by the end of the year, I just felt heavy. I just felt tired and resentful. My relationships were strained because I was just I approached everything from quite, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. And I made a decision at New Year that I was going to be lighter. I was going to be happier, but the word for the next year was lighter. And I focused on things like really simple things, like a walk on the beach for me clears my head, it resets me. I find it kind of gives me perspective. So I made it a habit of going for a walk on the beach every single day. I read a brilliant book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and about how upper limit. Yeah, so yeah, it's fantastic. And I realised that I was upper limiting my happiness. So I just chose to move the limit up. So in that year, I did several things that enabled by the end of the year, nothing had really changed in that I was still running the business and doing freelance, but I was really happy. My relationships were flourishing, and I felt really good. And it was just about working out where my boundaries were and putting them in place. And I do that now. I also I work out how things sustain me and why. So I work out how I need the business to sustain me, and therefore how I can get that. So when I talk to people who are struggling and finding business, because all businesses go through up and down times, and they'll all go through learning curves. I haven't yet met an entrepreneur who hasn't really struggled at some point and had low periods, and sometimes very long low periods. And the thing that keeps you on track and gives you that resilience is working out what sustains you. What's your passion? What do you want from that business? And I was able to identify what Talent Ladies Club was giving me apart from money. It has to be, it has to be something that, obviously everyone who runs a business wants to earn money from it. But if that's the only reason you're running your business, when you have those difficult times, and especially your business isn't making money, it's much harder to keep going. And it's much harder to put the passion into the business that will make it thrive. But running a business half-heartedly without passion means that business will fail eventually. So for me, it's all about finding what sustains you in that business, your why, which comes down to that. And if you can work out what that is and put boundaries around that to make sure that's preserved like a precious orchid, nothing is going to kill off that. For example, if you work out that, what sustains you is the feedback you get from the people you help, but then you shape your business in the way that you're no longer speaking to people and you're not getting that feedback, you're cutting off your life supply in your business. So it's when you work out what sustains in your business, you need to make sure that is what makes you happy. Often you see when businesses grow, an entrepreneur started a business from passion. So let's say I might be a crafter, and I started a business because I love making my individual thing. Then I grow a business so big that I'm MD and I've got 5 staff. I'm now doing marketing strategy and sales meetings, and the people making it aren't me. Then I suddenly kind of go, why am I running this business? You might find yourself like, I'm an accountant. That's what I do. If I look at my business, I'm credit control, I'm bookkeeping, I'm admin, and the people who are doing the bit that I loved, I started it for. I'm doing that. So find out what's sustaining you in your business, and always make sure that remains. That you can nurture that, because then you will be able to ride your business through the tough times.
Absolutely. So what's your why?
My why is creating, writing articles and creating products that make women's lives better. That's it. I'm a really creative person, so which is why I love writing articles on it, and I love doing the training courses, because I love creating stuff. I like I'm a problem solver, so I like solving problems and working out. So let's say, as I'm writing a course at the moment for women in a particular industry who aren't making money. So I'm like, right, why aren't they making money? What are the things that are stopping them? And then how can I help them get beyond that? How can I help them overcome that? What training courses, what training things can I put in there? What workbooks, what videos? So I love kind of taking someone's problem and then finding a solution for it, and then helping them find that solution.
Amazing. Did you always know that you would do, maybe not this exactly, but you knew you would do something that was more than the average?
No, I always had a drive to have what I call a big life. But what I mean by a big life is one that fulfills me, that inspires me, that challenges me, that I'm proud of, but proud of for me rather than pride externally. So I always wanted, a big life. And I grew up in a tiny village, and my idea of hell would have been to marry a boy in my local village, get a job as maybe like a secretary for a local company in the high street, and have kids that go to the local school and live in a kind of a housing estate on the village. That to me would have been, and I know that's lots of people that is their ideal. Mm-hmm. It's all an individual thing. But I think for me, I remember when I was younger, kind of dreaming about traveling the world. So I kind of like, well, there's a big world out there, and not just in geography, but in opportunities and possibilities. And so I always wanted to have a big life that took me where I wanted to go in a physical sense by traveling, and in a sense of opportunity of like being the best I could be.
And what does a big life look like for you now? Because how many children do you have? You've got 2, right? And so obviously you're more settled and not
yes
booking one.
Well, we've already got, so my partner and I have a 10-year plan.
Oh, exciting.
Which involves, so in 10 years, our children would both probably have left home. Okay. So the next stage of our life is to buy a boat and then just travel around the Med on a boat and go from bay to bay and kind of just, until we get bored of that, and then we'll think of something else. But that's my kind of like my goal, my next thing. That's my next stage of my life.
Oh, I love that. Hannah. In my head, I was like, I hope she blogs about it.
I'll do like a whole new site about, hey, if you want to live on the Med, this is what you've got to do.
Yeah, exactly, on the boat. Oh, brilliant. And so before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would love us to know about what you're doing or where you're going?
Oh gosh, I don't know really. I mean, I would say is if you haven't read the site, go and have a look. There's like 1,800 live articles on there and interviews with people, and hopefully an interview with you very soon.
Oh, yes, please. 1,800. Wow.
Yeah. But so whatever you're struggling with in kind of, your life, your career, your business, I hope that you should be able to find hope on there, inspiration. So if you do nothing else, do that. Sign up for our mailing list. You can do that on the site, and we'll send you an edit of our weekly articles. And if there's something you particularly want really good practical help for, take a look at our courses. There is a button on there's a navigation option on our site. We've got lots of courses from LinkedIn to Twitter to starting a business to, there's just lots on there. To making profit, all kinds of things. So if you want really good practical help and support, go and have a look at that.
Fantastic. And also, what I know it's always like, whenever people ask me this question, I'm always like, just one thing.
I know you're going to ask. My one tip.
Your one tip, yeah. For that person who's sitting there, like I'm thinking of the women that are sitting there knowing that there's something more, but they're just not sure what to do. You got...
What I would say is just do something. And it's as simple as that sounds. If you, especially if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. Mm-hmm. If you do nothing and you wait for perfect inspiration to strike, you will never do anything. Even if it's something like, I'm going to pick up the phone and join a local evening class. You never know, it's like the butterfly effect. Tiniest change you make in your life can potentially have life-changing consequences. So if you feel stuck and you're continually stuck because you're waiting for that perfect first step, what is the thing? I need to know what that thing is. Don't wait, do something. The reason I booked a one-way ticket to Hong Kong is I was totally and utterly lost. I felt that there should have been a path I was on in my life, that everyone had one, and that I was wandering lost in the forest looking for my path. And because I didn't have one, I just thought I'm going to have to do something. So I did that. And by doing that, I made my path. I found my dream job, which is working as a creative in an ad agency. But I found it through doing something. And I also realised none of us have a path in front of us at all. We make a path. The path is behind us, and it's winding, and it's usually through the forest. So just do something, and it doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to work. The beauty of it is it can be anything. And I will just say, let go of an idea of perfection. Let go of the idea that there is some perfect job or some perfect man or some perfect woman or some perfect business out there for you. There's nothing perfect anything. There's just what you create. I always ask, whenever I interview anyone, I always ask for their top pieces of advice. And almost without exception, the successful business owners I have interviewed have all said, just start it. Just don't wait till perfect, just start it. And one guy I interviewed, very, very successful, and he said often, particularly related to business, and actually I think career as well, the business that you think you're starting isn't normally the one you end up with. It's you find your real career or business in taking action towards the one you think you're going to get. And you never would have found that one, your perfect career or job, or person or whatever, had you not taken steps towards something and learned that lesson. You think about it, if you've got a great job now, you didn't go from like 16 or 18-year-old school leaver to perfect job. We all started out babysitting or paper rounds and then some rubbish first job. Each of those jobs led to the job we finally got. And we wouldn't have had that job were it not for those other things. So every single step you take, however small, however in the wrong direction it may turn out to be, will ultimately get you to where you want to be.
I could listen to you all day, Hannah. I'm yes.
That's a really long answer.
No, it's absolutely brilliant. And I love your analogies, first of all. Brilliant analogies. But it's, as you were writing, I scribbled down the imperfect action, because that's what it is, isn't it? And that's what holds so many women back, because especially with the likes of Instagram out there and social media, where everyone's showing their highlight reel. So everyone's showing all the glossy bits and it all looking perfect. Other people just starting out thinking, well, mine needs to look like that. And they're comparing their behind the scenes to other people's stages, and that's what stops them. And it's like exactly what you said, just take the action and let it be imperfect, because it will be.
Oh God, yeah. And I know a lot of successful people now. I know a lot of and I've worked in advertising behind the scenes on successful brands, and I can say behind everyone's perfect staging, everyone has a backstage area, and that backstage area is messy, is full of like failed plays they were going to put on, they didn't. every entrepreneur who is phenomenally successful I have spoken to has had a rough ride. Has had learnings along the way. I've not met anyone who has been, and most people are honest, like very few people maintain that kind of charade when you talk to them one-on-one. And those people generally are kind of like little islands on their own. The ones that kind of get the support from other people and really flourish and have wonderful networks are the ones who open up and are honest. And they all say the same thing. They all say that actually, there's hard times. There's still hard times. And not everything is perfect, but they just keep working at it. And yeah, it is their staging. You're just seeing the sort of veneer that they put out onto the world, the hard shell, and behind that is all the chocolate melting behind.
Exactly. It always reminds me of one of my first jobs was at a really posh shoe shop. And I was 16, walked in, and I felt a bit intimidated walking into this very, very posh shoe shop. And then they took me behind into the stockroom for the interview. And I was like, it is an absolute tip behind here. And that almost became a metaphor for me. I then went into work in communications and marketing. And like you in advertising, you got to see the stockroom of all of these brands and realised that often that went to print a minute before it was due, or things just kind of were behind, just weren't this well-oiled, organised machine without the messy bits that we often see. So none of us need to aim for that perfection, because
no. And and TLC isn't. If there's anyone out there who's under any illusion that TLC is this glossy, slick, perfect machine, it is very far from that.
Oh, people know that about me from my stories. I was on stories this morning talking about forgetting something from school, and
but I love it. But to me, that's when you build the connections. You build connections through authenticity. And I know we were both at Jessica Hoy's launch, and last week, and she's very searingly honest in her book. But that's when you get the connection to people. You feel like it's real. You're talking to someone who's a human being, and you are sharing things as two humans. Whereas when you talk to someone and they're like, no, I never do that, and oh really, that's a bit strange when you do that. When they're kind of taking that kind of higher level, you don't build a connection with them. There's no relationship there, and it's quite lonely to be that person.
Yeah,
because actually, because if you said to me, I'm struggling with, I feel like this part of business is really failing, and it feels hopeless. And if I said to you, I could say to you, well, actually, I struggled with that. Here's what helped me, and don't feel alone. I got through it. You will too. So you've got empathy, support, hope, and practical advice. If you said to me, my business is fine, thank you, well, you're secretly thinking I'm going to close it because I'm struggling with this one thing, you would never got any of that.
Exactly.
And also you don't build a relationship with anybody. So therefore, when you share things, you have that kind of like there's this little thread of a kind of connection between you. And at any point of thinking, I really need help, but I could phone that person up because you've shared that bond, and that thread is there. And I think, life is about the relationships we build beyond. Business wouldn't be really boring and not fun were it not for the relationships.
Exactly. And I definitely think with the nature of the businesses that we run and the people that will be listening to this, the women that will be listening, it's about having that personal connection. And it's that is going to make us different. That's what makes us unique is the people and the personalities and the realness about it. So
absolutely,
it's going to be a win-win. And I love that it ties back to TLC's mantra of positive honesty, because
yes, absolutely. I think it's really important. We're always really honest about how we built our own business, because otherwise it would be disingenuous to kind of go, here's a reality, but it's all fine here.
Yeah, exactly. Come in. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on the podcast. I will link to you on social media and obviously the site, so everyone can come and check it out and sign up to the mailing list and things like that.
Thank you very much. I've loved it, by the way. It's just like sitting down for a coffee with a friend.
Exactly. That's exactly what these conversations are. They really, I enjoy doing them so much. So thank you. Thank you for listening. It is so appreciated. If you like what you heard, help your girl out by subscribing on iTunes and leaving a review. And I'll be picking out a reviewer each month to receive a very special affirmation card and print pack. So get over there to get yours. Sending you love and light as always, and I will see you really soon.